Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie, Jessica.
So Mandy, tell them what we're doing today.
Well, today we are doing my audiobook era tag. And Amber from Amber Reads Romance, who we do our buddy read with, tagged us in this. It was a couple weeks ago, but we're
Oops.
finally accomplishing it.
Yeah. Finally got it on the schedule. We're working on it today. So this will be a fun one. We have a lot of audiobook readers in our followers, and you and I both like to listen to audiobooks
Yes.
quite a bit. So I'd say my audiobook to reading ratio is probably a 50-50 ratio. So yeah, let's do it.
I read physically a little bit more than I listen, but
And I think I listen a little bit more than I read, honestly. But yeah. So okay.
All right.
Let's
We're
do it.
diving in.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, here we go. First question is, what was the first audiobook you ever listened to?
So this one's hard because I think back to when we were kids. I remember my grandparents got me like all of these Disney stories, like Sleeping Beauty and stuff, on these little records, and I would listen to those.
Yeah, I wasn't going back that far, Jessica.
No, I mean, like that was where I was like, what? But as far as our reading journey, like with the romance and our channel stuff, my very first one was Taken by Natasha Knight. This was actually the first book outside of fan fiction that I picked up. And when we did our first and favorites, I had said that there was a different one that was Natasha, like I described a different one that was my first Natasha book, and I was totally wrong. It was Taken, but we're just gonna go with it. So yeah, Taken was my first. Very dark, but it was so good, and it was a spiral after that. So all downhill. So what was yours?
Mine was a book that's not actually a romance book, but it was The Light Between Oceans.
Okay.
And it's fairly popular, so a lot of you might be familiar with it. And at the time, I couldn't listen to audio like beyond like the regular listening speed. And I actually got towards the end and I was like, I like need to know what the heck is going to happen here. And so I actually went and bought the book so I could finish because I'm like, I can read so much faster
Yeah.
than listening. But yeah, that was mine.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
who are your favorite narrators? Do we just want to go back and forth naming all the narrators that we know?
We can. We have a lot of favorite narrators. We have a lot of narrator friends, and that so this is hard. So sure.
Okay.
I'll go with the Tortom,
Samantha Brentmore,
Sadie Hamilton,
Hannah Chiclana.
Aaron Malone.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
Stephanie Rose.
Brandon Francis is a new favorite.
Oh, that was the next one on my list. Andy Arndt.
Connor Crace.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
Lance Greenfield.
Stella Hunter.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm out on the ones that I actually wrote down because I thought you were going to yell at me for having too many.
Did you say Andy Arndt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, Savannah Peachwood.
Savannah Peachwood. Oh, I love Savannah Peachwood. I think Jason Clark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I started writing them down and I'm like, Jessica's going to yell at you for having this many. You better just stop here.
No, I felt like I have a list too, but that's all on my list. I know that there's more. We're probably forgetting quite a few, but God, I love them.
Because I like to be tricky, I added some of the ones that we just talked about are down on another section. Different question.
That sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. What audiobook platform do you use?
I mean, that's easy. Audible. I think that's for both of us, right? That's our main platform. Other than like BookFunnel
I do get a lot of ALCs, so I do listen to a lot on BookFunnel and Audible, and my library has Libby, so I do get from there sometimes too.
I don't use Libby. I use Audible. I have an Audible subscription. We also have Kindle Unlimited, so a lot of the times you can get a lot of either audio for free or for like $7 through Audible. I've tried Scribd. I used Scribd for a while. It wasn't worth it to me. The ones that I was specifically looking for, just were rarely ever there. I think I subscribed to Scribd because they had Cora Riley's before Cora Riley was on Audible. And then I just recently used Chirp, but I felt like it was extremely expensive. So, and I don't like change. I'm happy with Audible. We're fine there. And of course, there are also like Grace McGinty will put out her, she's getting a lot of hers on audio right now, and she will put it on her website for way cheaper than you can get off Audible, but then that comes through BookFunnel. So there are authors that do theirs through BookFunnel as well, not just
All
Allison's.
right. What book did you love on audio that you might not have enjoyed reading physically?
I think any fantasy. Fantasy's hard for me to get into, especially if I'm reading it. So, like from Blood and Ash, ACOTAR, the Guild series, those ones that are fantasy, I have to have them on audio. I think I would have given up with the world building on any of them had I read them physically. What about you?
I would say historical romance because it's in third person, but an
Mm-hmm.
actual like coming up with an actual book that I loved was My Favorite Holiday. And I think if I had read it, I wouldn't have it still would have been really good, but I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much because this had the full cast narration. So Samantha Brittmore and Jason Clark, see how I was gonna sneak him in,
I see that. That's good.
were the main characters, and then like Andy Arndt, Hetty Hamilton, Connor Crass, Vanessa Edwin,
There you go.
and a couple more all narrated as well. So it was
Yeah.
just like it was a really fun listen, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that full cast narration just really elevated the whole experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think full cast narration does that to any book.
I think it does too. And I do want to say, like, when you look with the ACOTAR and those ones, they're coming out with all this. You listen to it that way too, with the what do they call the narration where they have all the sounds and stuff in the background?
Oh, the dramatic.
Yeah, and I honestly don't care for that. There's weird kissing scenes and weird noises and stuff. I would rather just listen to the audio, like the original audio. So I'm just putting that out there.
I did listen to it for ACOTAR, and it did help me. I enjoy it more
You do, yeah. But I like the original
for
ACOTAR audio.
that particular series.
Yes, yeah.
What's your go-to audiobook speed?
Max 3.5, unless there's a accent. Sometimes when I'm in the car, I have to slow it down because my car is very quiet, so that's the road noise will be a problem. So I can't hear if they've got a real growly voice. But 3.5 almost every time.
I am 3 or 3.5, but like BookFunnel 3 is the max.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a choice there. Yeah.
Do you prefer single or dual multi-narration?
Dual multi-narration, for sure. Single narration's okay, especially if the whole book is like told from the point of view of the hero or the heroine. But even then, if the narrator can pull off a opposite gender voice, then that works, right? But a lot of the times it's hard for them to do that. So dual, typically.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I
duet.
think
What about
whatever
you?
fits the book.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times books are written in dual point of view, so then I do prefer the dual narration. But if it's a book that is written from like third person, then single is
It's
fine.
fine. Yeah.
And if it's only one person's view and the narrator is good, then it
Then it
works
works.
really well that way too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do you listen while multitasking, or do you sit and listen like it's a movie?
Oh, no. I have to multitask. I have to be doing something while I'm listening. A lot of the times, though, especially if I'm listening in the evening, like if I'm not doing, because I, do it at work, I do it in the car, whatever. But a lot of the times, I will, especially if they have that whisper sync, I will read along with the books that I'm listening to. That keeps me focused. But I do have to be doing something, whether it's that or playing a game on my phone or working or whatever. You?
I multitask. I do a lot of my farm chores while I'm listening.
Cleaning.
I also live a ways away from anything, so I have a lot more car time.
Yep.
And my kids are older, so they don't have to go with me. Like, what kid really wants to go run errands usually, especially if they're boys? So they don't have to go with me anymore as much. So
No.
that helps pass the
I will say
time.
though, I get bummed when they do need to come with me. Like if I'm taking my daughter to Seattle for a doctor's appointment, because that's 2.5 hours one way, and I could be listening to a book, but I can't. Or like today, my daughter's got a orthodontist appointment. I'm like, dang it, that's an hour in the car. I could be listening to a book, but
You're
I can't do
awful.
car.
Okay, what is your biggest audiobook pet peeve?
How much time do we have?
It's your biggest, not all
I
of
don't know.
them.
I wrote down a couple because it's hard to choose. I have I have a hard time when the book is told from the POV of the heroine of a female, and we have a male narrator who does like a really weird female voice. I have a hard time with that. That's a big one. Um, my biggest thing right now is all of this AI voice stuff and not being able to go through Audible and say, I don't want to see those. But Audible's always going to push it because that's their thing. But I don't want to see those when I'm looking for like the new releases. I don't care. I don't want the AI. It sucks and it's taking jobs from actual narrators. So
Yeah, I won't listen to it.
I won't. Um, and that's pretty much the top two right now. What about you?
Um, so I listened to a book where the narrator, I believe, I'm trying to remember because I kind of blocked it out. He was, I believe it was a male narrator, and then no, it was the female narrator, and she read all of it and never changed her voice. And so then it was very confusing when it was him, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it at all. That really took me out of the story and made me
Yeah.
kind of not like it as much.
Yeah.
So narration can really kill it. I
Okay.
also don't like, and usually this is more of a female narrator thing, and there's only like I think one female narrator that I've heard do this, and it's none that we've mentioned. But when they're doing the like spicy scenes and they come off whiny
Yeah.
instead of like sexy or
Enjoying
breathless.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's like when I'm laughing,
Mm-hmm.
that's not good.
That's not good at all.
So I'm like,
No,
wait, you
no.
sound like you're whiny. Like, I don't like this.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that came to mind too when I was writing this down that I forgot to mention is when the audiobook narrator's voice, and this is typically a male voice, does not fit the person that he is playing in the book. If you have a young 20-something guy, he should not sound like he's 50 years old. That is going to take me out of the book immediately, and I'm not going to want to listen to it. I might read it, maybe, if it hasn't ruined the book for me. So having narrators chosen who fit your characters is really important. I understand it's
Mm-hmm.
expensive and not every author can do that, but your narrators make or break your book.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, if you could have any book made into an audiobook, which one would it be and who would narrate it?
Um, I really thought about this one. I was like, what would I want to
I
hear in
couldn't come
audio?
up with an answer very
I
well.
did. I grabbed Bryn Ford. Bryn doesn't have any of hers on audio. And I
Mm-hmm.
would love to have this trilogy because I was like, I need to do a reread of it. I want to do a reread of it, but I'm like, that's 3 books. And I would rather wait and see if audio ever comes for it. As far as who does it, I mean, you can pick from any of our favorites. They would all be amazing. Um, I would like to see more Brandon Francis though. So, you know, throw him out there.
Yeah. He's been
Hmm.
popping up in a lot of the books I've been reading.
Yeah. And
I
Aaron
think
Malone.
he's
I
in the
really
one
like
I'm
Aaron.
listening to right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought of another narrator because when I was desperately trying to think of books, Daisy Jane narrates some
She
of her
does.
books,
And
and I
she's
really
amazing.
enjoy listening to her
Hmm.
because I was thinking like I would love to see more of her books
Yes.
in audio. I know she's trying to work on a few of them, but I couldn't
Hmm.
really come up with an answer.
It's a hard one.
I have an interesting share.
Okay.
When I was looking, we're doing this tag and we're doing another tag that we got
Yeah.
asked to do. And so I was looking back at my books from this year. And then I was looking back at my all time favorite books, just kind of trying to figure out some to answer these different questions. And I noticed almost every book that's made it into my top reads is not one that I've listened to.
Yes. Yeah. I think there's something about getting distracted when you're listening, or maybe I don't know, but something about reading it physically. I'm not sure, but that is true. There are some of mine that are audio that made it in there, but most of the time it's ones that I physically read. Hmm.
For me, that could simply be that the majority I physically read more than I listen, usually, but lately I've been doing a lot of ALCs because I just enjoy
Yeah.
them. And so
Yeah.
my
I don't know what that
data might be
is,
a
but
little skewed in the
yeah. Well, I
recent
also think
months.
too that when I'm listening to an audiobook, I'm doing other things. And so if I read along, that's a different story. But I'm doing
Hmm.
other things. I'm typically working and stuff. And so I think you miss things or you can't get as immersed sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your all-time favorite audiobook experience?
So this was hard. I actually had to go back and watch Amber's video to be like, well, what did she say? Because I have no clue how to answer this one. Um, and I'm just gonna go with when Calla Reed put out The Surviving Trace on audio. When I first read it, it was a physical read. I knew it was a favorite read. But when I heard these characters come to life, and she has an amazing narrator who does Etienne's voice. It is Mason Lloyd. He's another great one. But he does all the Ice Planet Barbarian books. And so for me to like listen to this and hear Mason Lloyd with a Charleston accent, a South Carolina accent, and for me to buy that he was ATN, like that, I was like, oh my gosh. And typically when I do a reread or a re-listen, it's hard to get those same feelings that you did the first time around. But every time, the audio is so amazing for these books that every time I listen to it, all that angst, all those feelings they're still there again. So that is a testament to the amazing audio that was done for these books. So
So the one that came to mind for me was a book that I listened to earlier this year. And honestly, if I probably like really this isn't something I've ever really sat down and thought about
mhm.
or anything or kept track of. We've done like some of our favorite audiobooks, but that's kind of more random. Like we're not trying to rank them as like the ultimate. We just picked some of our favorites.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to think of like what was a really good audiobook. And I went back and I found Blackheart by Kelty Allison, which reminded me that I need like I think the second book to that got delayed, but it is out now. So I need to go listen to it. But
Hmm.
it's narrated by Hannah Chiclana and Wesley Mercer. So two great narrators. But he is a hired hitman and he's following her and he wears a mask, so when he talks to her his voice is distorted, and they did that in the audio, which just really kind of took it to like a whole new level
Hmm.
to actually hear that. Like it wasn't him just trying to make a like different sounding voice. They actually used like he would in if this was really happening, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
so I really like that, so that's what I picked for this one.
Okay. Well, now that you're talking about this, it reminded me of one that I think that is an experience that you and I both loved that I totally forgot because it's been over a year since we did it. And that is the 9 Minutes trilogy. I listened to the audio, you read it,
Yeah, I
but
was gonna say I read it.
right. But it is one of my favorite audiobook experiences because we've told this story before. I was camping. Like I started reading it, then I messaged you or called you while you were in California at Legoland, and I was like, you have to pick this book up. You have to. Before I even finished the prologue, I was calling you. And then when you got home, I was camping. And so I would drive into town the 10, 15 minutes it gets to town to get cell service every day, several times a day, to check in with you and see where you're at and what was happening in these books. And these three books held like they had us by the cojones for days on end, and we were checking in constantly. So I listened to the audio, you physically read, but
Mhm.
it is one of my favorite audiobook experiences because it's one of the first times where you and I picked up a book together and was like, oh my God, where are you? How far did you get? Don't read past this point. You know, that kind of a thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that was quite the adventure.
it was quite the adventure. So, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. The last one is, have you ever listened to an audiobook that made you pause and say, "Wait, what did I just hear?"
No, I don't know. Nothing shocks me, really. I mean, BJ Alpha is one of my favorite authors. Nothing shocks me in audiobooks. Maybe the prologue for 9 minutes, where I was like, holy cow, but I don't, not off the top of my head. You know, that one was a hard one to answer. Do you have an answer for that one?
I don't have anything specific. There's been times because we know Tor Tom, like he's a friend of ours. There's been a few times where I've been listening to something he's done and I'll be like, wait, what did Tor just say? And then I like kind of giggle because it's just a different like thought process. And then
Yeah,
I
especially
continue
when you're
on.
friends with them. It's different. It's like, what? You know?
But
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know that this is probably going more for the shock value, but there are times where I'm like, wait, what just happened? What did they just say? And I have to rewind, and sometimes I have to slow it down
Hmm.
um, to hear something if I'm not
Hmm.
quite catching it.
Yeah.
And there's been a few times where I've slowed it all the way down to one, and I'm like, I'm still not 100% sure what he's exactly saying or
Yeah.
whatever.
That
That doesn't
typically happens
happen
when I'm
too
driving.
often, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's more like when I'm driving and I miss something and I have to like rewind it. But as far as like shock value, it is interesting when
yeah.
you become friends with narrators, because there's like when you really get into the book, you can forget who it is a lot of the times and you adapt to the character. But there are times when you're like, what did Tor just say? Or
Well,
what
okay,
did
I have
Samantha
an
just say?
example. Lisa Suzanne's newest book um, was on audio. Tor does it. And I was like really excited to read it. I started listening to it, and he's like, "Oh, that epilogue." And he sent me like the sweating fire emojis and stuff. So I'm listening, and so I'm listening, so I can't see like what's still to come. And it's like the epilogue, and it's from her point of view, and she's giving birth.
Oh
And
no.
that's the epilogue, is her having the baby, which is fairly typical. Like, I
Yeah.
don't feel like that's a spoiler.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fairly typical. And the epilogue is where we see kids. And I'm like, what? Did Tori get confused? I'm
Mhm.
so perplexed. So that was a little shocking. Turns out there's a second epilogue, which I won't talk about, that Tori's character does. And so
Mhm.
then everything made sense. So I would suppose that
Yeah.
was shocking, because I'm like, I actually think I told you, I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
understand why Tor thinks that her having a kid is like,
It's shocking.
like
Well, I
on
mean, and it's the
fire.
whole
Like, are
the,
we
you,
talking about the ring of fire?
like, what's
Like,
going on here? Because I that was at the same time that I was listening to a tour book, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this thing is coming up with farm equipment." Or you
oh,
wait till you get to that, and I was like, "What?" And then when I got to it, I mean, Tor's a Texas boy, and I mean, you and I both grew up on farms, right? So I was like, no, that's not cool. That would never fly. Nope." And Tor's like, "We listen and we don't judge." I'm like, "Oh, I'm judging. We don't do that. You don't. That is like an infection waiting to happen."
yeah,
So,
tetanus.
tetanus, perforated cervix. Like, what? So
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it's kind of funny. It's, when he can warn us about things like that, and then you get to it, you're like, oh my gosh. So
Yes.
yeah, it's fun. But we're not judging. Just don't do it.
Speaking of Tor and Daisy Jane, they are doing Big Daddy, and I think that's coming out soon, isn't it?
I think so.
Daisy's been posting about it.
I'm really excited to
You'll
listen to
need
that
to
because
listen to that.
I will listen to it because I put it off. Um, well, I have a bunch of daisies that I need to listen to or to read. But I knew she was working on trying to get audio for certain books. So I was like, what's going to be next? So I'm really excited that it's going to be Big Daddy. I can't wait. So I will be listening to that when it comes out.
Yeah,
I
Tor
mean,
will do a
Tor
great
and
job with
Daisy
that.
together, like that is going to be amazing.
Yeah, that'll be a
So
good combo.
yeah, yeah. So,
All right,
all right.
that is the end of the questions.
That is all of our questions. Okay, so now we've got to tag some of our friends. So, Amber tagged us. Who are we taking?
Okay, let's tag Jen over at Bookmarked by Jen and Katie at Katie Reads.
Yeah.
So
So,
you two are up. Can't wait to see your thoughts on the audiobook
and
tag.
Jen, you've been tagged twice. It's time to do it. All right, guys. Yeah.
Oh, and let us know in the comments if you want to answer any of these audiobook questions. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah. All right. And they need to check back when?
Well, make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and sometimes Wednesdays. And this video is coming up random because of the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
So if you're in the States, happy long weekend.
Yeah. Happy Independence Day.
And if you're not in the States, happy weekend.
Happy weekend. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.